Anthony Hernandez is literally the next big thing in the UFC, boys. We are back. UFC Apex has just wrapped up, and Anthony Hernandez has completely obliterated Roman Deitz for 4 rounds. This guy absolutely dog-walked Roman Deitz. He made Roman Deitz look like he was an amateur. He made Roman Deitz look like an absolute idiot there, and Roman Deitz should be embarrassed because this was an absolute humiliating performance. But Anthony Hernandez is the next big thing in the UFC. He is now riding an 8-fight winning streak, and I am very happy to talk about this kid and how I honestly think he could become a future world champion in years to come. Before we get into the rest of this video, we're going to be recapping the whole UFC Apex card and of course talking about Anthony Hernandez and his actual potential. Before we get into that, make sure to subscribe, man. We're at like 920 subscribers right now. It takes 1 second. We're trying to hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. It would mean a lot, man, and just do it, man. But without further ado, let's talk about this Apex card. It was an actual very good card. You know, we had a lot of finishes on this card. We had a Women's MMA flatline knockout. We had Ursk go in there and flatline someone, and it was a really good card. We also had one of the most insane knockouts I have ever seen. Elijah Smith absolutely flatlining this Asian bum, dude. He just slammed him on his back of his head, completely obliterated him, Rampage Jackson Pride style, and he followed up with 2 brutal hammer fists, brother. Jason, whoever was the referee in this, I think it was Herb Dean. Herb Dean, you should have been there quicker, man, because this little Asian man absolutely died, dude. They were giving medical updates on him the entire night, and that's how you know you caught a body. When they're giving medical updates on you the entire night, you know that guy absolutely died in that octagon, brother. And like I said, it was a pretty good card. We had a couple women's MMA scraps, and in the co-main event of the night, we had Steve Ursk, the man, the myth, the legend, Steve Ursk, the guy who had it all. He fell from glory, take on Osborne, a bit of a journeyman who is a tricky customer. And honestly, the only thing I have to say about this fight, well, it's not the only thing I have to say, but I do believe Osborne won. That might come across as a shock to some people. I believe Osborne won. You know, the first round, it was pretty obviously Osborne. Osborne knocked down Steve Ursk, whether it was a flash knockdown or not. He had put Steve Ursk in a very bad position, and I was getting flashbacks to Dominic Reyes versus Ryan Spann. But honestly, Steve Ursk was hurt, and he was hurt bad. He was sniffing the cage, he was sniffing on the ground, and it was a pretty clear round for Osborne. Then going into that second round, Osborne was keeping his distance. Steve Ursk was finally beginning to catch his pace. You know, he was beginning to actually read the fast reactions of Osborne, but was able to stop the takedowns, and that is something that I think MMA should, I mean, the judging criteria, we need to account for stopping takedowns. He stopped 3 takedowns this round, completely prevented Steve Ursk from getting him to the ground, and he was just at range. He was landing some big shots, and Steve Ursk, although he was doing a lot, he was just holding him against the cage, and he couldn't get those takedowns. You know, I'd say on the feet, it was very even, but Osborne prevented the takedowns, and Osborne landed a very significant overhand right, and I believe Osborne, although he may have lost that 3rd round, he won this fight, brother. I mean, I understood that when the judges were reading out the scorecards, that it was pretty clearly going to go to Steve Ursk. Steve Ursk is obviously the bigger name. Steve Ursk ended out on top, but that doesn't matter, dude. Steve Ursk, although he was landing elbows, he was smashing Osborne's face in that final 10 seconds. That doesn't matter when you're talking about the entire fight, because the truth is that Osborne was actually able to outland Steve Ursk a lot of times. He was able to hit the more significant strikes, and Steve Ursk, although he was able to get a takedown in that final round, although he very clearly won that final round, Steve Ursk did not win this fight, and I wanted Steve Ursk to win, brother. Before this fight, I was begging and hoping that Steve Ursk could actually get back in the win column, and I really was just hoping it wasn't in this way, you know. I mean, not a very close decision to a journeyman at flyweight, and I understand it's just one of those performances where you need to get your confidence back and all that, but I still would have hoped a little bit more from Steve Ursk. And guys, after this fight, I've kind of been thinking maybe, just maybe, Steve Ursk was just the absolute worst matchup for Pantoja, and maybe, just maybe, Steve Ursk was never that good. I mean, I don't know if that's true or not. I gotta think about that a little bit more closely in the next couple of days, but man, maybe Steve Ursk was just a nightmare stylistic matchup for Alessandro Pantoja because he got knocked out by Kai Car-France, lost a pretty clear decision to Bruno Moreno, and he may be good enough to hang around the top 5, maybe top 8, but I don't think Steve Ursk will ever win a title in his career, and I think we all know that by now. But still, Steve Ursk, I'm happy you're back on a win. I think Osborne deserved this, especially after getting robbed against Ronaldo Rodriguez a couple fights back. But good to see Steve Ursk back in the win column despite how he won. And now let's talk about this, boys. I'm going to be talking about the main event for a while. Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, the man you are. Khabib 2.0, Cain Velasquez 2.0. But seriously, he is Cain Velasquez 2.0. If you guys weren't around back then, Cain Velasquez was an absolute marauder in the wrestling department. Cain Velasquez had the striking, some sneaky striking that is, and he had the pure dominance in the grappling, the ability to just suffocate your opponent. Anthony Hernandez has that, and quite frankly, Anthony Hernandez has some of the most dominating wrestling in the middleweight division, perhaps even more than Khamzat Chimaev. And I'm going to be talking about the Khamzat Chimaev versus Anthony Hernandez matchup a little bit later in the video. But who has done that to Roman Dolidze? I mean, I hate to sound like Joe Rogan, but Roman Dolidze does not get dominated by it like that. Like, Roman Dolidze he had maybe one strike that landed clean this entire fight, but other than that, Anthony Hernandez was piecing this guy up on the feet, throwing overhand, throwing left hook, throwing cheeky little elbows in there, then taking this guy down. Then after a little bit of smashing him, he would let him back up, then take him back down again and smash him again, and so on and so forth. I think he landed like 8 takedowns in this fight, and it shows how good this man's cardio is. Some of the best cardio in the UFC. Merab was in Roman Dolidze's corner, but I mean, Merab was also standing right across Roman Dolidze because Anthony Hernandez probably has the second best cardio in the UFC, right behind Merab Dvalishvili, and you honestly wouldn't expect it. He has a bit of a pot belly. He honestly is just a bit of a tubby. He's a bit of a tubby guy, and honestly, he has the best cardio in the middleweight division. That is a fact. But Roman Dolidze got dominated heading into that 4th round. You could just tell that Roman Dolidze did not want to be in there. He was just getting absolutely obliterated. And look at this picture, dude. This picture is just straight aura. He finished Roman Dolidze. Roman Dolidze actually tapped pretty soon, and I think it's time that we start talking about this matchup. 8 fights in a row, brother. 8 fights in a row. No one else in middleweight history has had to go 8 fights in a row straight winning and not gotten a title shot except Anthony Hernandez. Drickus got a title shot after I think 6 or 7 wins in the UFC. And Anthony Hernandez, the middleweight division is a bit of a stacked division in terms of contenders right now. We have Amava, we have Brawlhalla, we have RDR, we have a lot of guys who are in title contention and arguably deserve a title shot. But brother, I'm just saying, if Khamzat Chimaev goes in there and he beats Drickus du Plessis this weekend, I think the man, the myth, the legend Anthony Hernandez, he can give Khamzat Chimaev the hardest matchup in the middleweight division at this point. If you think about it, Anthony Hernandez is the hardest matchup possible for Khamzat Chimaev. Literally, you think what's Khamzat Chimaev's downside? What's one of his only flaws in his game? His cardio. That's a fact. That his cardio. Everyone knows this. Khamzat Chimaev has had severe cardio problems throughout his entire UFC career. He's gassed out against guys like Usman, gassed out against guys like Gilbert Burns, and that is something that has almost costed him a lot of fights. And brother, this guy's gonna be fighting 5-round fights from now on. When you look at Anthony Hernandez, what do you think is his biggest threat? His biggest ability is his cardio. These guys are polar opposites. Anthony Hernandez has some of the best cardio in the UFC. He's able to go 5 rounds when he smokes 5 blunts a day, brother. This guy smokes weed. I follow this guy on Instagram. He smokes 5 blunts a day, and somehow he still has the best cardio in the UFC. I have no idea how, but still, dude, Anthony Hernandez has what Khamzat Chimaev doesn't in terms of cardio. And then you look at the striking, dude. This guy, Anthony Hernandez, has very sneaky striking, dude. He's able to land a nice check hook now and then. He's able to land a nice elbow, a nice right hook. And seriously, you look at Khamzat Chimaev's striking, I'd say that, if anything, they're on the same level. I mean, Khamzat Chimaev, he's been able to strike with the guys like Gilbert Burns and Kamaru Usman, like I said before. But, Drickus du Plessis, I feel like he is the best striker that Khamzat Chimaev has ever faced. So it's going to be very interesting to see next weekend what Khamzat Chimaev can do against Drickus du Plessis in terms of the striking. But so far, this matchup right here in string, Anthony Hernandez and Khamzat Chimaev, I think in terms of striking, this is a very spot-on, even fight. And obviously, the wrestling. We can talk about the striking. I'd say they're dead even, but the wrestling, that is something that I think Anthony Hernandez is just as good as Khamzat Chimaev in, and that is why I think Anthony Hernandez can possibly beat Khamzat Chimaev. Khamzat Chimaev has the dominant grappling, but you want to know who else has the dominant grappling? Fluffy Hernandez, and Fluffy Hernandez can do it longer and a lot more brutally, brother. Khamzat Chimaev, you get people out of there in the first round. Well, Anthony Hernandez drags people into the fourth round. We're tormenting him. He torments people for 4 rounds and then finally gets a finish after they were praying they weren't in there any longer. Anthony Hernandez is the type of guy to ruin your life in one fight. Guys who face Anthony Hernandez won't be the same after this fight. And Khamzat Chimaev, with all due respect, Anthony Hernandez is your hardest matchup in the UFC. If you guys agree, let me know down below. If you guys disagree, let me know down below. And like I said before, make sure to subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one. MMA Outpost out.